So let's
Yeah.
go to your third question. What else do you want to know?
Yeah, so you touched on this a little bit earlier. You mentioned your assistant Emily, who's helping you out with fulfilling orders. And I was just curious if you would say that it's a must to have somebody else who is basically handling that side of fulfillment, or, can a creator do all of this on their own?
I definitely don't think it's a must. It certainly helps, right? And I think I'm actually going to broaden this out because I think it's not just, ad management is one of the things she does for me. She helps me with a bunch of other logistical stuff. And I think the sort of deeper question is how important, necessary, helpful is it if you're a sort of solopreneur, creator, entrepreneur type to have help, right? To have someone do this, and do you need that? And I don't think that you absolutely need that. And I don't think it's a must. I do think it's incredibly helpful. And I think that if you can afford it, even in some small way, like Emily's not full time, she has other clients and does other stuff, right? She helps me with certain specific things. And if you can afford it, it's great. I also think you don't have to be, it's possible that you might only need someone to help you with the ad management piece of what she does for me probably doesn't take all that long. Like I would guess it's maybe a couple hours a week, right? So if there's someone out there and it's like you could find someone that you pay for 2 hours a week, it's probably worth it, depending on how busy you are and what you're doing. And if, you have revenue coming in and the ads are helping with that. But that said, don't need it. And I think that if I didn't have help, both with the ads and with other stuff, it would change the way I do things, right? So
Mhm.
I would take into account, like, here's a very concrete example with the ad management stuff. If I didn't have Emily able to sort of chase people down if they didn't send in their copy, right? Like if they didn't give their copy and she's like, oh, hey, your ad's going to run. I still need your copy. I might change my policy to basically be like, you need to submit your copy up front, or you need to reply with your copy. And like, if you don't, sorry. Like I'm not chasing, if it was just me and I didn't have help, I would not chase people for copy.
Mhm.
Like if you forget to send your copy in, that's on you. Sorry. Right. So it's that kind of things, those kinds of things that I would potentially change. The other thing is I might potentially change if I felt like managing it with 5 ads a week was too much. I might go, you know what? I'm going to sell 3 ads a week, or I'm going to sell 2 ads a week, and I'm going to raise the price just so there's less back and forth, right? Or maybe I would sell, you can't just buy 1 week, you have to buy a month. So I'm basically selling to 5 buyers a month as opposed to 20 buyers a month. So I would adjust the way I
Mhm.
did things to account for the limited time that I have. And in some ways, even with help, I'm already doing that. So for example, if I had more help or wanted to hire more help or had different help, I theoretically, one of the reasons I don't have many big brand advertisers is because I don't want to spend my time chasing, pitching brands and doing all that stuff. Hypothetically, I could hire someone and say, your job is to go get me big advertisers. So if you think about it as a spectrum, that the level of help you have, you're adjusting your offerings and your sort of what you're pursuing based on that level of help, right? If I had less help, I'd probably restructure and create a system in a way that, or process in a way that requires sort of less time. If I had more help, I might go after and arguably I should. Again, I'm not saying that the way I'm doing it is right necessarily, but that's how I would think about it. So I don't think that, and this extends not just to ad management. I don't think any creator must have help. But if you're not going to have help, I think you must adjust your process and system and approach to match the fact that you don't have help so that you don't drown in it. Right. Emily helps me organize. She doesn't write tweets for me, but she helps me. There's a whole spreadsheet we have because I repurpose tweets and stuff all the time. If it was just me, that would not be as organized and happening the same way, right? She schedules stuff. It would be different. It would be simplified. There would be less. Maybe I'd be less organized about it. I would figure out how to do it myself, but having that help allows me to do it in sort of bigger ways. Let me ask you, are you thinking about it as whether it's ads or other stuff, what's your stance on it? Are you trying to figure out how to do it yourself, or are you trying to figure out how to get help?
Well, I'm thinking about trying to do something like you've set up for one of my friends, old colleagues who I'm working with, who's a creator himself, and testing it out and seeing if basically like an e-commerce store setup could work. At the same time too, like I have also started trying to help out creators and help them land brand deals themselves by essentially working on commission. So that's another front where maybe, I'm going the route of maybe trying to have more formal negotiations. There are more discussions back and forth with brands that wouldn't necessarily be the very simplistic setup that you have on your.
Yeah. I mean,
what
I would recommend is with whatever you're doing, right? Even in a more complex, more high touch back and forth, look for any way you can to simplify it. And there's probably ways it can probably be made more simple, even just little things, right? Recurring tasks that you're doing or the way you're presenting it, as opposed to, I'm just making this up, right? But as opposed to sort of having these open-ended conversations about, let's talk about how we can work together, just go in and be like, boom, it's funny. You and I know we're talking about a different kind of sponsorship, and you could see how it shifted from initially, like we both wanted to work together and let's figure out what we could do together, shifted into here's 3 specific options, right?
Yeah.
Let's cut to the chase. And whether it comes, I think in that case, I was the one quote unquote selling it. So I came up with the options. But I think even as a buyer, I think so much time is wasted in these conversations, and everyone has the best intentions. Like, I don't mean it as a criticism, but it's like waiting for someone to just sort of codify and go, here's a pitch, right? Here's what it is.
Yes.
Let's be specific. What do you like? What do you don't like? What are the issues? Okay. You don't have this, or vice versa, right? What's your budget? Okay. You have this budget. Great. Here's 3 different things we can do. I think trying to get to specifics, one of the things I talk about all the time also, especially in like sales or any kind of sort of negotiations or whatever, a quick no is not a bad thing, right? Like, get to know fast, even if you then are pitching something else, right? I think people sometimes are so afraid to get to the no that they're sort of dragging it out, that they kind of don't ever make the sort of official pitch. I'd rather pitch something, have you be like, no, that doesn't work. And then go, okay, well, why? It doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. Perfect. Let me come back and be like that, right? I think that streamlining can be done even in more complicated stuff, because I just think a lot of times people on both sides, again, through no fault, people even that want to work together, it's just they're sort of dragging their heels, where it's like, let's just cut to the chase. Like, there's things you don't want, there's things you want, and vice versa. Like, let's kind of put it all on the table and start talking specifics. Otherwise, things can just drag forever.
Yeah, I think that comes from just this fear of not wanting, like you said, not wanting the deal to fall through, and just kind of being like, well, you go first. No, you go first.
Yeah, especially,
no, you go first. And it's always
especially when both sides genuinely want something to happen, right? It's easier if someone's just blowing it off.
Yes.
I don't care, I'm not interested or whatever, right? But when a lot of times when both sides want something to happen, it does fall into, like, you're right, they don't want it to fall through and it drags. And that's why, like, one of the things I always say to people and always remind myself is like, a quick no is really valuable, because otherwise you're just not wasting time, but you're just dragging stuff out. And you're sort of in this ether. And now things become very complicated, and that's preventing you from doing other stuff. It's preventing you from even doing other stuff with that potential partner or customer or whatever. Like, let's let's get to the thing quickly. I would much rather have someone say no than, oh, well, why don't you come back and, we'll meet with some other people and, put together, sort of show us some other ideas. And, it's like, no, like, okay, like, well, sure, we can do
Yeah.
that, but like, are these ideas dead? Like, why are they dead? Or like, what do you actually want? So, so you can get there. But yeah, cool.